Yeah, there's a slightly different approach depending on the school in regards to the spring game. And I'm going back 10 or 15 years in which it seemed as though across the board, the spring game was actually played like a game or like a scrimmage, like an all out full pad scrimmage, start to finish. We're running the clock as we would during normal play. People are tackling, they're hitting. It's not the intensity of playing the Egg Bowl exactly, but it's probably 80% of Louisiana Texan town. You know, there's some level of intensity, and it's played like a real game. Now, coaches have backed off considerably on that in the last 5 to 10 years. They don't want to see guys get hurt, and they've backed off. You see some tackling with a lot of these spring games for about a quarter, and then they're like, okay, that's enough. We've seen enough. So it's kind of difficult to gauge the line play and the tackling and how good it is. With this runner or this quarterback gotten away from this guy? Who knows? He was just able to reach out and get him by a fingertip, so he's down. But I certainly think that the wide receiver play against the defensive backs is legitimate because they can go at it. Pretty similar to what you would see in a regular game, but it's interesting, and also the aspect that you just brought up, because they're scrimmaging a handful of times, 2 to 5 times, with the same intensity behind closed doors. But this is the time in front of the crowd, and it's a friendly crowd, but it's still 50,000 seats, 30,000 people, whatever the number, for some guys that just played in high school or played at the junior college level. And they play in front of a lot of people, maybe for the first time. And you bring up these 3 wide receivers, Guidry, the number 1 JUCO wide receiver coming out. The other 2 guys, as you mentioned, Jason and Heath, top 30 at their position, is both 4 stars. So it'll be interesting to see their development. And if they're able to make some big plays against the Mississippi State defense, which should be one of the better units in the SEC this fall. All right, Daniel Black joining us to set us up for Super Bulldog weekend, the football aspect of it, of course, with the maroon and white going at it April 21st at the stadium. Let's look at recruiting. So we just talked about 3 huge gets at the wide receiver position, Daniel, for 2018 in a class that was in the top half of the SEC. Your thoughts and maybe some analysis and some new information about the progress toward 2019.
Well, the 2018 class, it was solid. It was solid from the get-go, from the moment when Mullen was there, when Mullen left, and we lost a couple guys, but Moorhead was able to sign a majority of them, a very large majority of them. He and his staff, getting his staff together quickly and getting in there and signing these guys were extremely important. Ended up finishing with a top 25 class. Highlighted by those 3 wide receivers. But the 2019 class is one that people across the state of Mississippi, whether you're at Mississippi State, Ole Miss, or Southern Miss, wherever, this is a class that the state of Mississippi has been banking on. And it's also a class that outside schools such as Alabama, Auburn, LSU, what have you, and the surrounding states, they're going after these Mississippi guys too, because by a multitude of sources inside the state of Mississippi who cover recruiting, they say that this is one of, if not the best high school classes the state of Mississippi has ever seen. And Mississippi State and Joe Moorhead, they've already been taking advantage of it. It's April 15th, and we already have 9 commits in this class, ranked currently by 24/7, the 8th ranked class in the country. A couple of days ago, it was 5th. But in the last 2 weeks, we've signed 3 4-stars as a whole in this class. We signed 4, 3 of which are defensive ends. This is something that Joe Moorhead, this is something that Mullen, Sylvester Cream, Jackie Sherrill, this is something that from the dawn of Mississippi State's time in football, I guess, we've wanted hard-nosed defenses. That's been an extremely important factor, whether it be Croom, Mullen, now Moorhead. We've signed 3 4-star defensive ends, Charles Moore, DeMonte Russell, and this name is, I've never heard anyone pronounce it, so I'm going to give it a go. Ani Izuchukwu. I don't know.
Good for you, Daniel, to give it a shot. Better you than me. I'm looking at it right now myself.
Yes, I don't know how to pronounce it, but he's from Nashville.
He turns out to be a player. Everybody's going to know his name around the SEC in a couple of years.
Yes, but those 3 guys are really good gets, and Quentin Torber, wide receiver out of Louisiana, 4-star. That's just 4 right off the bat right there, 3 of which have signed within the last 2 weeks. giving Mississippi State right now a top 10 class in the country. In addition to that, probably Joe Moorhead's probably his most important get so far is Garrett Shrader, who's a 3-star dual threat quarterback out of Charlotte, North Carolina. He was a guy that was recruited heavily by Joe Moorhead when he was at Penn State. The moment Moorhead got to Mississippi State, that is, he offered Garrett Shrader. He was getting chased by South Carolina, but he ended up committing to Mississippi State. He's 6'4", 6'5", 200 pounds. I mean, he's sort of that Nick Fitzgerald type quarterback that Joe Moorhead will be able to do a lot of things with. So this year's recruiting, or this upcoming year's recruiting class for Mississippi State is shaping up to be a really good one, easily one of the best in Mississippi State's history, as long as we can keep this going. But it's shaping up to be a really good class, and it's already showing with who we've gotten committed so far.
Daniel, I'll take a shot at Ani Izuchukwu. We'll go with that.
That's better than my pronunciation.
He's number 14 at his position, weak side defensive end out of Nashville. Torber's a top 50 player at wide receiver, as you mentioned, out of Louisiana. Shrader is the 13th rated dual threat quarterback. All these are 247 ratings. So we're talking about top end players coming to Mississippi State. And the statement that you made off the top, I think needs to be emphasized, that we're talking about a state in Mississippi. Okay, throw out Texas, California, Florida, because they're not only elite in producing talent, they have huge population. So the numbers are always going to be slanted that way. 40% of the top 300 players, 500 players come from those 3 states. It's crazy. But we got to consider population, and looking at Louisiana and Mississippi in particular produce tremendous levels of talent considering the population per capita. It's amazing the NFL players produced by Mississippi, and some of the all-time legends, obviously Walter Payton, Brett Favre, Jerry Rice, on down the line. So to make the statement that this could be the best pool of talent ever is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's something that's been thrown out there for the last couple of years. Just even when the 2017 class was being signed, 2019 was the class that people were pointing at. 2019, Mississippi State started offering these guys 3-4 years ago. This is a class that has the potential to be one of, if not the best in the history of the state, whether they're going to schools in Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, or way out all across the country. Programs are going after these guys in the state of Mississippi, and it's exciting to see. As a fan of a school in Mississippi, whether you're a State fan, Ole Miss fan, Southern Miss fan, on down the line to Jackson State and Alcorn State, it's exciting to see this happening.
Yeah, I'd just like to know who these scouts are that are that good to see these guys as freshmen running around and sophomores and be able to project that they're going to be SEC caliber players is pretty crazy as well. Mm-hmm. All right, we got Daniel Black on the line from For Whom the Cowbell Tolls. It's the SB Nation platform for Mississippi State athletics, and setting us up for the Super Bulldog weekend, and of course the spring game with the maroon going against the white. Daniel, we appreciate you stopping by. You got us all set. It was a really good conversation, so thanks for the insight and information.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it as always.